York's only local show is back on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
Let me see if I can get this right now. 7:04. I kept saying 8 o'clock in the 6 o'clock hour. So, if you were freaking out, that was my fault. 7:04 a.m. This morning. And it's about 18 degrees outside right now here on Brooks Robinson Plaza. Here at Wellspan Park, which is our home now on WOYK for the Gary Sutton Show. You can get in here this morning and text our show at 833-478-4729. If you'd like to be included for a Capital Region golf card, which we're going to pull from all the people who text during the show, just put in there, I'd like to be considered for, or I'd like a Capital Region golf card. And if you're the winner, we'll call you at the end of the show, or we'll text you and get your number and send that to you. Okay, like we did with David Willage, who won the first one on Friday. Also, you can answer my question at Gary Sutton's Show on Facebook, which is, does everyone deserve to have a living wage? We hear that an awful lot. In Maryland, in their legislature down there, they're talking about everyone deserves to have a living wage. Therefore, we have to bump the minimum wage up to $20 an hour from 15, where it's fairly high right now, up to 20. And they're having a argument about that down there. I had a great conversation with people the other day, and I said, maybe we ought to start putting the living wage on the consumer, not on the job provider. The job provider is just taking their money and starting a job and saying, here's what I'm trying to do with what I've got. The other person says, here's what I got to do. I got to go find a way to cover the nut. With that this morning, we head to a guy that's in our state legislature here in Pennsylvania. He is Seth Grove. He's state representative from the 196th Legislative District, and he joins us this morning here on WOYK, the Gary Sutton Show. How you doing, Seth?
Doing well, Gary. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Good to have you in. I was talking about this thing in Maryland in their legislature right now. They're talking about a $20 minimum wage, and then for people who will be in the service industry, not having any tax on tips. And we got into that whole conversation. I'm sure you've had that a million times before, but the person said in their legislature, well, it's the job of the job creator to provide a living wage. And I said, I don't think so. It's a job of the person whose situation it is to provide the living wage. Any thoughts on that this morning, the whole minimum wage idea and that whole idea of a living wage?
Yeah, we've seen it time and time again. You can look at countries like Venezuela who continually increase their minimum wage. It leads to higher prices, inflation, the whole nine yards. You can look at California. You can look at the very liberal states who have passed sweeping labor laws. And it really doesn't work because it just increases the price of goods. If you look at kind of your typical entry-level jobs here in New York, I was just filling up my gas tank at Rutter's the other day. Their starting wage for walking in the door is $18 an hour.
Right.
So the economy works, free markets work, and frankly, I don't think people want minimum wage jobs.
How about this, Seth? That when people want this minimum wage, and I'm not saying it's all bad for everybody, but I will say this. It seems to me that they're trying to contrive something. They're trying to fit a foot into a shoe that doesn't fit. In other words, they're saying, well, we've determined that the value of this job is this, when the organic give and take of our economy says, I've determined how much money I have, here's what I'm producing, here's what it's costing me, here's the amount of profit I want to make, here's how much I can pay a person, that's what I've got. Take it or leave it. If you can't do that job and it can't provide for your family, then maybe something else is better for you. But this idea that we keep on trying to foist this on the business creators in our country who have the liberty and freedom to do their own business in this kind of capitalistic economy, it really goes against the grain, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it just does not work at all. It does not work. We've seen it time and time again. It backfires. If you want to deal with inflation that we have now, that's part of it. You don't want states artificially increasing wages beyond a company or an entity's ability to pay. And it is detrimental to small nonprofits. They're the ones that actually close doors and can't operate because they don't have a consumer base to really increase prices to do their missions. There's more negative side than positive side. And again, it's a talking point of the left that gets away from the root causes and the underlying issue.
Yeah.
Most people on minimum wage here in Pennsylvania, it's a secondary job. It's college kids. It's high school kids.
Right.
And it has has a negative impact on high school kids because businesses won't hire them.
Right.
Basically, businesses do a favor to society by hiring high school kids, provide them the training they need to be productive members of society in the future. They're not worth it. Like my kids, they are not worth minimum wage right now. They haven't had their first job. They're not worth it. I would appreciate a business hiring them and training them because they do not have that skill set, and that's what you get through that first job.
Well,
the prices them out of the market.
Yeah, we normally thought about that being an entry-level job or a starter job, 18 to 25-year-old doing that. Now the interesting part about all that too, Seth, I think, is the number of people who are older who maybe have outlived, were living a lot longer, who maybe have outlived some of the retirement that they have, and they're trying to supplement that. So we're seeing that end of the spectrum also, as well as the very beginning. So that's kind of an interesting group dynamic that's taken place.
Correct.
Hey, I want to ask you a question. Mm-hmm. If we don't want government fixing our minimum wage and doing all that kind of stuff, from your standpoint, as being a guy who's been a state representative for a while now, and you've been in leadership there, and what do we want from government on the state level? What is it that, when you go to work each day and say, okay, what do people want from me? What is it that they want from me being a representative in a Republican-style government, a representative democracy? What do they want from me on a daily basis?
Yeah, they want the invisible threat, right? They don't want, Seth, they don't want government in their lives 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But they want to know it's there just in case something happens. So most of my job anymore is fighting with ever-increasing large bureaucracies who are not, who you can't call, who you can't talk to, you can't interact with anymore.
Right.
So all these state agencies, people are working from home. They get rid of their call centers. You just can't call anybody. I mean, if you talk to any of my district office staffer, just the appreciation of people, I'm like, that just call and just say, oh my gosh, an actual person I can talk to. And that's the interaction with government, and people don't like that. They want to interact. They want to have that conversation. Right. I'm having a problem with XYZ. I tell state agencies all the time, if they actually did their job, I'd probably get rid of my district office.
Wow.
But they don't. But they don't interact with. They don't want to, and they don't engage the general public anymore. Particularly post COVID, it's gotten even worse.
Well, you get into some of these agencies like PennDOT and some of them that are so big, and right. And then you get the worst lie in the world. Your call is very important to us. Well, it's not. And it kind of weights you out a little bit. And a lot of the other ones, too, the various healthcare places and so forth. It's really tough. And so we've seen what's happened here, for example, on the national level with the Trump administration coming in and taking a pickaxe right now, basically, to this whole idea of the bureaucracy. They're going to really be paring them down and trying to take out those jobs that are redundant or you're not getting things done. They're calling people back to work. I mean, they are really coming at it in a hurry right now, almost maybe too fast, a lot of people are saying. What's your take on that whole attitude that'll probably eventually pervade down to the state government as well?
Yeah, I love it. I love, finally, the American people, the federal government focus on government efficiency, making it streamlined, making it more efficient. You can't hire a government employee, or actually, if someone retires, you can't hire 3 people to fill that one job anymore.
Right.
That's tends to what happens in bureaucracy. Like, it was so much work. Let's have 3 people do John's job after he retires. And it just becomes this bloated system. You need to refocus the core mission of those agencies as well. And I think you've seen mission creep throughout government, from the local level all the way up to the federal level. So getting back to what is your actual core mission? What are you supposed to do? Let's focus on doing that really, really well. And I think that will actually solve more problems than anything else, instead of having, all these agencies trying to do 50,000 things and not do any of them well. Let's go back and say, all right, let's focus on this one. Let's fix this. I mean, we've had a war on poverty since Lyndon Johnson. That hasn't been fixed. Mental health is the worst it's ever been. It just progressively gets worse because you just have these state agencies not fixated on one mission.
So what I'm hearing you say, let's do more with less instead of less with more, and let's get efficiency and accountability back into the whole thing again, because efficiency and accountability, that's where we are as individuals. I mean, government's supposed to be the extension of the individual and the family. Why do we tend to give government a pat and say, well, okay, we get there. We don't have to worry about efficiency. We don't have to worry about accountability. Anything goes. And then when we say waste, fraud, and abuse, and someone comes around and says, let's cure that, and then people go, no, we don't want to change anything. It's the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life about why we should let government do something different than we do as families and individuals. Your thoughts?
Yeah, amen. Someone that's focused my entire career on rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse. You find these programs that don't work, and those that benefit from the program as they may get a contract. It might be a private entity. They get a contract from the state. They'll be like, oh, no. They run to their legislator and say, oh, they want to get rid of my program, and it's terrible. We help people do this and that. They don't do it well. The data shows they suck at doing it. Yeah,
the old don't gore my ox, but gore everybody else's. That's okay. Hey, just a couple minutes left here. Big things coming up here in 2025. I know you got a tie now because of the death of Representative, I believe, Gergely the other week, and now you got a 101 tie. That'll have a special election later on. But obviously, governing and coming up with legislation is going to be a little bit different. But what are some of the big things on the table here in this year that you have out in front of you right now, Seth?
Well, number one, we're operating in a structural deficit at the state with their budget. These past two budgets have placed huge financial burdens on the Commonwealth. We're spending more money than what we're bringing in, and as a state, we can't magically print money like the federal government, right? So we're projected to be about $3 billion more than what we have at the end of this fiscal year. The $8 billion of budgetary surplus that Governor Shapiro inherited will be gone. So the remaining solutions that probably are on the table, because people won't want to cut, won't want to do the efficiency, get rid of failing programs that don't work, the redundancy, shrinking the size of bureaucracies and refocusing them on their core missions. Right. It's going to be, hey, what taxes can we raise? What budgetary gimmicks can we do just to get through the next, because governor's up for re-election. They'll probably do their typical government. They won't pay their bills, right? Wow. So under Medicaid, they'll tell all the MCOs that operate our Medicaid, or they're going to say, we're going to only give you, 9 payments this year instead of 12, right? Can you imagine doing that as a family? Hey, I know the car bill's done, bank, but I'm going to only pay you 9 months out of my 12 months because, I decided to spend more money on gambling this year.
Right at the end of our time right now, Seth. But, again, when are we going to get back to a zero-based budgeting mentality?
Amen.
And where we evaluate every year, every dollar that's being spent, like we do in our own families, because if I'm out of a job this year, guess what? I'm maybe not doing some of the stuff I did last year. It's about time maybe the government follows suit, and we'll continue to watch as you guys get the deal and all that kind of thing in Harrisburg. But, Seth, appreciate you taking the time this morning. We look forward to a lot more conversations with you along the way, and just trying to talk a little common sense. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Gary.
Take care now. State Representative from the 196th District, Seth Grove, here on WOYK 718. Here on a Monday morning, 18 degrees outside. And when we come back, we'll have some more stories for you all over the place. If you're talking about it, we're talking about it right here on WOYK. What are your thoughts about Seth's little appearance here this morning? 833-478-4729 is our text line. That's 833-478-4729. Send us a text and let us know also if you want to get in for the Capital Region Area Golf Card. If you do, your name might be the one picked at the end of the show to get the winning card. All here on WOYK. It is 718.